talking through why most procurement workflows quietly collapse back into email, spreadsheets, tribal knowledge, the old way of doing things. In your experience, why do procurement systems fail after launch? I mean, even when the intent is good.
I think the two biggest things, one I mentioned earlier, right? The strategy was never translated into day-to-day activities. So we had this great PowerPoint deck, great sales deck. The executive saw this wonderful dashboard, but didn't realize what it took to get the dashboard to work in the real world in their company, right? Data cleanups are required. But the second biggest thing is, excuse me, the second biggest thing is not having an owner that's in the buyer's group. So as a director, I could own it for so long. But if I don't have anybody actually owning it day to day, that's where it's going to fail. Like on the implementation that you did at one of the portfolio companies I worked at, I drove that for the first 6 months really hard, but I did not drive that for the last year. The team owned that. The buyer's team owned the weekly calls and the troubleshooting. And that's important, right? They have to own it so that they don't just give up and let the foot off the gas. And to your point, go back to emails and doing it offline, right? If they own it, then that system has success and sticking after the implementation's over.
Absolutely. Well, and that was actually one of my follow-up questions was, what is that thing? And it definitely seems like process ownership is a huge aspect of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what's the like most common we didn't think about this edge case that you have seen or you did
So I think the two areas that pop up the most is not underestimating the end user's willingness and creativeness to circumvent the system. It always impresses me how hard people will work to not use the system, right? And I think one of the there's a little meme out there that has like a sidewalk, it looks like on a college campus of intended usage and the little footpath through the grass of actual usage. And you need to account for that, right? So, and how do you do that? One, I think it's making sure that you've mapped through all of the processes and you have all of the different use cases mapped out. Now, I'm not saying that the system has to handle every single use case, but you have to identify we're gonna take these 80% of the use cases are in the system. Now, 10% on this side and 10% on this side, they're going to be offline because it's R&D, it's some really offline kind of thing that we don't want to automate in the tool. But at the end of the day, how do the results of that offline work get back into your ERP system? If you've accounted for that, I think, that works well. You mentioned emails earlier, and especially on contract lifecycle management systems, I can't tell you the number of times where I've tried to tell a client, you don't want emails for everything. Log into the system, look at the dashboard. Look, no, 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 I want an email. So, we put the email in within 3 weeks to go live. I get the frantic call, like, please make the email stop. I don't want any more emails, right? So those are probably the two biggest areas where people are surprised if you've not been through this, a number of times.